Okay.
I people who built my house.
I never.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't think.
We can do lead shares, I just know.
I have lots of electrical wires on the other. At any moment. Like it's.
Okay, we're coming back to order. The time is 7:45. And now we go to citizens' comments. Madam Clerk, are any citizens wishing to make comments?
No, we do not.
We have no citizens, okay? So now we go to the communications from department heads. Chief Heineken, I'll let you go first.
Good evening, Mayor, council members.
Good evening, Chief.
Few things to discuss tonight. So I do have an update on the new fire truck. It has actually made it to the tote that they put it in to put on the barge on January 6th. So it is no longer in the dealer's hands. It's
July
actually,
6th or January
or
6th?
July 6th. Excuse me. Yeah, July 6th.
He's excited.
If it was January 6th, I'd be worried. So hopefully we will see it here in the next 2 weeks unless the barge sinks, which you never know. And it can't get here any quick enough, really. Our first out apparatus is done waiting for it. We had a major breakdown with our first out apparatus last week. The crews were out doing some tests and some pumping training. And it was noticed that there was a severe growl coming from underneath it somewhere. So we brought it back to the station, and after doing some looking at it, not going into too big of details, there's a pump transmission. It's like a transfer case that directs power directly from the motor to that pump. And that gearbox is got some really, really bad noises coming from it, some looseness externally that we can find. And then when we drained fluid, it was water contaminated enough that we're pretty sure everything inside that transmission has been pretty heavily damaged. I did get a quote to replace the transmission. The gearbox itself will cost about $11,500 plus shipping for that gearbox. Is a pretty expensive gearbox. And it is at least 6 to 8 weeks out for it to be available to ship. So that apparatus is going to be down for a while now. We've moved engine 24 into first out, awaiting the new engine to arrive, in which we will very quickly go through the procedures that we need to accept it, get it tested, get it set up to where it can get put into service as quickly as possible. The new engine is very well needed at this point. So that leads into the process of giving away engine 24. So the committee did evaluate the 4 applicants that we did have. We had very good applications. It was a hard choice that they went through, and then the committee went through and they actually gave scores to each of the applicants. And in the end, it was almost unanimous who scored the top, and it was Delta Junction Volunteer Fire Department. I did contact them. They were ecstatic to hear that they would be receiving it. I will probably recontact him this week and let him know that we don't know time frame because of the new breakdown. It might extend the time period that we'll be able to actually transfer engine 24 to them. Because we definitely would want to get engine 25 completely, fully back up in service, which I'm anticipating might take a couple months to do. Last thing I have is just some personnel stuff. Firefighter Ian Watson, we knew he had told us a couple months ago that he had anticipated on moving home and attending a paramedic school in his back home. And he did finally turn in official resignation, and he'll be done working for us the end of this month. He came to us from the military. He was a military and was a volunteer with us, and then eventually was one of our resident firefighters living at the fire station as a volunteer. And then when he got out of the military, he had gained enough certifications and qualifications with us that he started applying, and we hired him pretty quick after he got out of the military. So he's worked with us since May of last year of 22. Been a great employee, model employee, to be honest. I'm sad to see him go, but I understand he's got goals and ambitions and wants to get back home. So we really do wish him well, and maybe he'll miss us once he gets his paramedic license and want to come back. So that's all I have this evening. I can take any questions.
Chief, I do have a little bit here. Are we still on board for your open house, July 29th?
Correct, yes.
July 29th from when to when, sir?
Normally from 10 to 3.
10 to 3, okay. Anything special besides the open house that you're planning on that day?
You know, the new engine should be here by then.
Yeah.
We plan on doing a push-in ceremony, which is tradition in the fire service to push in new fire apparatus. So that'll be a little bit of an addition, but other than that, it should be, our standard open house. It's mostly about the kids, getting the kids in, feeding them the hot dogs and just showing them what we do and get them, safety message here and there. For us, it really is about getting the kids involved with the firefighters. So it'll be a lot of the same.
And I'll remind you, I have a lot of stadium rolls and the brats for the adults too.
Yep.
So that you don't have to go out and repurchase that. On July 27th, are we gonna do the Fallen Heroes Memorial?
Here at the,
Fallen Heroes,
I guess I'd have to talk with Chief Dutra.
Yeah,
I think that's when it's scheduled for.
yeah, I just don't see anything and LT's not here to give us a report tonight, so.
Yeah, I'd have to talk with Chief Dutra. I'm not positive.
Because the
where
next
that's
time
at.
we meet is 3 days before that. and I'll see if I can find something out from him. Any questions for our chief or any comments or things about how nice things are going around here? Huh? Thanks for keeping the us fire safe through this.
Oh, one question. There was an incident on the highway, that we came on the tail end in. So how did that progress? Because the police department's not here. Police department's not here. So we did not lose any lives on that variable. did
No,
we?
there was no fatalities as far as I'm aware of.
Okay,
Yep.
Okay.
We transported multiple patients to the hospital. They were viable patients, injured, but non-fatal.
it was 2 vehicles and I was kind of surprised on that variable. So thanks.
Pretty crumpled.
Okay.
The car was pretty crumpled.
Crumpled, yeah, saw it.
And upside down.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. Miss Tricia, would you go next, please?
Good evening, everyone. I don't have a lot to report. We had auditors on site today. They're planning on coming out, as far as what they're telling us now, tomorrow morning and then Wednesday. They had a chance to talk with Michelle about procedures, about payroll, myself, and, also Danny talked to him a little bit about, the Moose Creek, project. They talked to Sally about, sales tax and business license procedures, and they're gonna run some testing at their office. We gave them access to Tyler and they can do everything that they would do here in their office. So, and with this new system, all the documents and backup are scanned in and they're able to view those documents. So that's pretty nice. Tomorrow, they're gonna do some testing with PERS, with new employees that came in 2022 and employees that left in 2022. And Ellie's prepared to work with them on that. Michelle did finish a bank rec probably about 3 weeks ago for April. We have an issue with the May bank rec. We had some Tyler stuff as far as sales tax is concerned, where there was some penalties added on or adjusted, and they don't show up anywhere. They don't show up in the person's account. So they are sending it up to another technician. So we'll wait and see. We might have to make an adjustment maybe into suspense to get that completed. And then when we get that resolved, we can take it out of suspense. So that's kind of where we're at there. We still have some issues with cash receipting as far as how it goes into our accounts. It's just a workaround. I think there must be something not set up correctly because in Cassell, it was never this difficult. So there's probably something to be tweaked and we have to find the right person to help us with it. So a little frustrating.
May I ask you a question? Is Tyler really on board when we ask for that help? Because you know how frustrated I'm getting just from doing payroll for just a
Right.
handful of people. So,
Right. No, we don't have a representative. We have somebody that's still kind of there until we get fully integrated, and we are not signing off on that piece until we get that fixed.
Okay.
So they're trying, and I emailed them last week because also, the auditors would like to talk to them about how things work.
Yes.
And I emailed this person and she emailed me back on Friday and said she's looking for the right person to help us.
Yeah.
Because normally when you call and ask them a question, you get a person that knows this little piece. They don't know how it reflects in the general ledger. So they can fix this piece, but not, where do you follow it through? Where do you follow the thread, basically? So we need somebody that can tell, they're going to ask specific questions and we need somebody that's going to be versed in that.
Yes.
So on Friday, she said she was looking for somebody. Then I got another email that said we could call the 1-800 number. So we'll do that in the morning and see if we can't find somebody. But yeah, it's not, I suppose everywhere they're having trouble with not enough employees and not enough information. And so it's just probably growing pains for us too.
Yeah, for us too. Okay, who else has questions for Tricia? Or comments?
Thanks for the report on our monthly income for bank interest. That's still astounding that we get
Yeah.
that kind of revenue.
Yeah, and I will put that, we don't have the statements for last month yet. As of today, we don't have them, but I will put a spreadsheet. So, because I want you guys to see that it wasn't always that way. At some point, we weren't receiving any interest on that money, but now,
0.5.
yeah, it's come
Yeah.
around. So
Very
it's
Cool.
interesting to see.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're
Tricia.
welcome.
Danny, you're up next, sir, with wonderful city services.
I'll first start talking about special topics, Moose Creek. We continue to have weekly, actually bi-weekly meetings on the efforts there. HC is our contractor for on-the-ground work there at Moose Creek, and they'll have all their tasks completed by the end of July. And these final tasks consist of dirt leveling, seeding, and mounding, and ensuring that the covering on the water main pipes within Moose Creek is appropriate. That is one thing that they did find that they had to go back and redo. The good thing is that anything they've done is still under warranty for about a year. So we'll still be able to hold them to that. Respect is our professional engineering services for the project, and they'll continue to provide services along with city support to the project through the end of the project date, which is October 30th, 2023. At that point, if everything is in place, then the city will assume full responsibility legally for that water system. Again, tasks for the rest of the project for the city in Respect include quality control, water meter replacements, and documentation. For the building department, ACS actually came and did a site survey. They actually came here and they wandered around town and they looked at 2 sites that we had an issue with. They looked at the building and they also looked at in the roundabout. There was a station that's now covered in a plastic green box that they needed to fix that had been run over at some point. So they fixed one. I haven't gotten anything back on the building yet, but I'm following up with that. But they were responsive. We just had to talk to the right people. So the building season certainly is well underway, and we've got at least 7 homes and an 11-plex under construction or under plan review. So we do have building going on in the city of North Pole. There, as you can see, there's a number of gas line installations, and there's no issues as a result of any of those. We also have streetlight installations going on throughout the city, and if you see orange, again, orange barricades around square sites throughout the downtown area. That's where those streetlight poles are going to go in. They've done all the boring, which instead of cutting concrete, they've actually for their lines, they bored underneath the road, which has been very good for everyone because we don't have to have that again, the road all torn up as a result. And sometime this week or next week, they're going to start actually installing poles. They'll start it with First Avenue. We did have some concern from local residents. We had at least 2 that were very concerned about where the poles were going to go in their yards, and the contractors were able to work with those and move those to a place that was mutually acceptable. So we have been able to be responsive to some of the local resident concerns. Over in the Public Works Department, beautification efforts can include the addition of the retaining wall that you see outside. Again, I think it's going to dress up City Hall very nicely. It's something that they've had on their project list for quite a while. But it does get rid of the rock, which is hard to weed, and they will bring that wall they've still got some work to do. They'll bring the wall all the way around the outside, at least to the other side of the parking space here. They still have in their queue to do the parking lot. They're going to resurface the parking lot, or actually reseal it and then repaint it. And you'll see a different parking configuration, but the parking configuration will be well tested. We'll make sure that cars can go where they need to go. They've got the appropriate space between the vehicles, but you will see a different configuration out there. For utility department, tomorrow, the water department has a sanitation survey, which may sound like a minor issue, but it's once every 3 years. We have Mike Pollan from NTL Alaska does this DEC required inspection. And I think that Owen, the municipal intern, will be with them, and that's going to be his day with the water department is tomorrow. Paul, the supervisor, noted that copper and lead testing was completed recently with no issues. And then finally, for the 5th year in a row, and actually the second time since I've been here, and I didn't have anything to do with this, your North Pole water system was designated as a Ursa major status water system, which about 15% of the water systems within the state of Alaska get this designation. It's based on the qualifications and the maintenance of those of the water system operators and maintaining their certifications. And the fact that they're in compliance with water quality standards, and they have no open, unresolved or incurred drinking water violations. So this is sort of a big deal. They continue to do this. And again, this is for the 5th year in a row they've gotten us.
The date on that, sir?
This is for the year 2022. So it is lagged. It is for last year, but certainly we expect nothing less in the coming years. This will hang on their wall, and we're very proud that these folks, again, an example of how hard folks work to actually provide safe and clean water for our citizens. That's all I have, and subject to your questions.
Yes, I'll start. I just wanted to commend you, what you already showed me for the Total Compensation Committee, how you were already ahead of the game, which I can almost come and expect you to always be on the game, if not ahead of the game, as far as to where your department is already. So that's going to make that a lot easier to swallow. And for those who were on that committee, I believe Pro Tem is, and Ms. Clack, are you on that committee?
I believe so.
Yes, that we are meeting on the 28th. That's on a Friday at 2 o'clock in here. But thanks for getting a head start, because I've got all kinds of numbers, but numbers aren't people. So, but I do have numbers, and I'll say something in closing comments later tonight about that. But I appreciate you being ahead of the game on that. Can you tell us the address again where Sergeant Christian Burgundy is telling us about the vandalism that's going on, and some of the people are afraid it's going to come into their houses too, off of Homestead again?
I think it's 2450 Homestead.
2450.
I think so.
Homestead. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the person really doesn't live out of state. She lives in Fairbanks, right? Is that what we found?
Right. And I think that there is an ongoing investigation,
Yes.
and I think they've contacted her, and to be clear on that, I drove by the location that you spoke of.
Yeah.
The front window is broken.
Yeah.
There doesn't seem to be any evidence of anyone living there, but certainly the police department is a better position to address some of the ongoing investigation.
Just called out for a second time in a week, and he's afraid that if we don't take corrective action, we will find ourselves seeing that like a cancer spread through that neighborhood. And at least that's what another neighbor thinks is going to happen. So we'll keep our eyes open for that. Okay. And I don't know the names, and if I did, I wouldn't mention them here at this juncture anyway. So just wondered if you knew. Any questions for Danny? Mrs. Welch?
Yeah, I was just kind of curious. You said it's going to hang in there in the office. You should probably, in my mind, you should have a copy of that and hang it out here so we can brag to our citizens and let them know what a beautiful department we already have.
I will talk to Madam Clerk about that.
Yeah.
And see if it,
I mean, if we
yeah,
get accolades,
yeah.
it should be out there and
definitely, yeah.
it should be on the website too, hint, hint, Miss.
Yeah, we could certainly work on that, so.
Yes, David.
I just have about the parking lot. Are they gonna also seal where the police department is, where as they come in and out their garages?
I think that's the plan, but I'll have to defer to Cody on that, because the way I understood it was just the main parking lot, but again, he may do the entire.
That's just
I don't think on the police, are you talking about the new COVID wing? On that
Oh,
side?
that whole strip. I
That's
know the COVID wing, that's fairly new asphalt.
right.
But further on down toward, I guess, the intersection.
I think I think right now this plan is confined to the parking lot itself and just that, because we want to seal it and then we want to redo the lines. So are you saying past the Peace Memorial?
Oh,
Or-
no, just
yeah.
basically where the police department parked their vehicles as you go in the garages.
The old garages.
The old garages.
I don't think that was on our scope,
Okay.
but well, we can maybe talk to to Chief Duterin.
Oh,
and see if
yeah, I was
that's
just
a- yeah,
curious. And it's just gonna be a fog seal they're putting over it.
yeah, I think so, yeah.
Okay. They're
So-
gonna do any crack sealing you need to do for the parking lot.
They'll clean it up and again, if there's any minor repairs that need to be done, they'll do that. The biggest concern that we wanted to look at also is again, the parking. We want to make it more handicap accessible. Some of the other parts of that, and then just make it more efficient use of the space for parking too. So, and we're very worried about someone me running into the COVID wing when we're parking up against it. So putting some barriers there and some other things so so we can utilize that space on the new COVID wing for parking within the internal parking lot. So.
Anyone else for Danny? Thank you for your report.
Thank you.
Oh, did you want to mention anything about the CHP? Combined heat and power or not?
I'd defer to you on
Okay,
where
well,
we're
no,
at.
go ahead. I'll let you tell what we know so far. And I'll augment that.
Okay.
I know what I want to say, but go ahead.
Well, the current status of the combined heat and power project, we continue to pursue grant options and we're looking for grant options to support the planning of that. Which again, we did receive, that's when we talked about before we received a potential bill from HC, or not from HC, from Respect, saying that, if you want us to go through the steps of planning, it's going to cost about $150,000. So we're looking for grant options for that. There are other things at work too, as far as funding, because the entire project hinges on funding. If we can get funding for it that doesn't put the city at risk, then it's going to be a viable project. If we can't get funding for it, it's pretty much going to be dead in the water. So we are looking at public-private partnerships for funding, and we had a meeting with Respect and a potential funding source about a week and a half ago. The mayor and I sat in a meeting. So there are options. It doesn't just hinge on grant funding to support this project. We still think it's a very important one for the city of North Pole, especially considering the development of that area with Three Bears and some of the other things that we have planned. But that's kind of where we're at on stuff, and I'll turn over to the mayor.
But what I'll say is, watch your newspaper and your news after tomorrow. And look and see what's coming down the rail belt with the natural gas supply or lack thereof at Cook Inlet. Okay, we may see supply and demand so disrupted that we may see quite an increase. Anchorage is already putting out a request to the RCA to increase their electric costs 6%. Okay. So all that's going to play in, but we're lucky that we have the North Slope gas. We may be in the catbird seat. We may be in a very, very good position here very shortly, but only the future can tell that. But so I'll be participating in that tomorrow with the rail belt, all the electric co-ops along the rail belt. Their cheapest option right now, so that y'all will know this, is 0.9 billion, $900 million is the cheapest option. that they have to get natural gas. They have 10 options to choose from. This is going to make it very, very difficult to choose which is going to give us the best supply of natural gas and at the cost point that makes sense for the long term. And it's going to have a lot to do with what all of us pay in the future to heat our homes. It's going to be very dicey coming down the road here. Fine heat power makes even more sense now. But the lack of natural gas from Cook Inlet is one of the big things. And if we have to start importing gas from Canada or Mexico, we need to watch out where that goes. And it can become very problematic real fast. So I'll just say, read the paper, and there'll be more to see on Channel 3. There'll be more to see in the future about this in the near future. So best I can tell you right now. So we have a 2-hour-long meeting tomorrow over that. So, and I'm glad to say that Randy Hobbs on our team plays an integral part in that decision process. Thank you. Who have we not heard from now? Is Ellie online with us? Ellie, do you have anything for the good of us here tonight? Miss Ellie?
Yep, I'm here. Just a second, let me step out.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I've continued to work with the staff on different projects that they've needed assistance on and help prepare for the audit. I've continued to upload documents and stuff into Tyler, which is making it really nice from what I understand, so that things are easy to view without having to go hunt them down as hard. And I have continued to monitor the training and stuff like that. That's pretty much what I've got, other than what you guys have already seen tonight.
And I'd like to give you kudos for helping between you and the clerk putting together the new travel mileage reimbursement that actually calculates out for us too. Thank you for your efforts in that regard, okay?
Thank
Does
you.
anyone have any questions for Miss Ellie? Yes, Miss Clapp.
On the training,
Yes,
where
ma'am.
are we standing on that?
We are currently pretty much in the same position we were the last time I discussed with you guys. I've made myself available for in-person trainings, as I gave you guys a list last council meeting. This last time, I know that there's been a lot going on, so I did not have anyone show up available.
Anyone else? Thank you. Ooh, oh, you got your hand up, it's right there.
Yeah, I had a
can
question
see.
also about that training. I mean, everybody knows it needs to get done. I mean, what can we do to make sure this training does get done in a timely manner?
That's honestly, that's up to you guys. I'm making it myself available to anyone who needs assistance, to walk them through it, to do it in person, in a group setting. I'm doing everything that I can at this time.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Miss Ellie. Appreciate it. Sorry I didn't see you there, David.
That's all right.
Does that take us to the clerk? Madam Clerk?
Good evening, you guys. The only thing I have for you tonight is, I think I've talked to just about everybody in person now, but I just wanted to say it officially here. I am leaving the city. It's not going to happen. My last week should be about the first week in in December, which should work out really well for a new clerk coming on and coming back from AML. I should be able to stay up until that point. So we are, the mayor and I and HR are working on the plan for getting that out to start getting people interested and start getting some applications in. And if anybody knows anybody, please send them my way. And that's all I have.
And where are you heading, Madam Clerk?
I am heading to Lima, Ohio.
Why?
That's the same question I asked.
Because it's near Peru, Ohio, that's why.
So I have recently gotten
engaged and my fiance is retiring from the Air Force, and that is where he's from. He had an amazing opportunity for a property that we are purchasing from his grandparents' estate, and we're going to turn it into a wedding venue, and it's going to be an exciting adventure for us.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Fantastic. We probably have to name this whole room after you over here.
I like it.
Yeah, great. Because you really turned the chambers into something nice. I really appreciate that. Owen, do you have anything before we go to the borough rep? Are you going to be working on a project for us, the survey? Do I understand that, Danny, is that correct? Yeah, we're going to find out about what park is that again? Highway Park? About you're going to figure out what's better for us to refurbish Highway Park versus Terry Miller Park versus the mother of all parks that won't be online till next year down in Brookside Park. Okay, so you'll figure it out for us. Let us know. How long are you with us till? End of August. Okay. Where are you going back to? Minnesota? You'll travel with me? Minneapolis, St. Paul is on your, MSP is on your route, so is mine. Yeah, I'll tell you all that close.
Next flight, mayor will pay for it.
Yeah, it'd be in good shape. So, who's the borough rep that's going to give us a
That
borough?
would be me this time. So I went to the borough meeting on the 22nd. And the first thing they did was they appointed Mr. Matt Cooper, who's a former assembly person, to the Board of Ethics. And that was what they were missing one. So they needed to make sure. So that was the first thing they did. Somebody else wanted to put in a different person, but they were quickly told that this is not for them to discuss. It's either up or down on that. So it passed with one person abstaining or voting against it. But other than that, they're still working on the property tax exemptions. They got a property in Dawson subdivision in Fairbanks that they got some time off for that, for property taxes. They have an ordinance. This was an interesting one because there are people who are getting tax exemptions on land for farm use. And so if they put a building on that, they get taxed on that. So the thing was that if you put a building up that is meant for your farming, i.e. storing your grain, storing your vegetables or animal food for your herd of dairy cows or whatever it is, anything pertaining to that, a stable, a storage building, et cetera, or even a workshop where you packaged your vegetable or whatever it was like that. Though they were very particular about outlawing it to pertain to anything marijuana. It was actually in there. They put that in to make sure it does not mean marijuana. So anyway, that passed so that you don't get your exemption taken away because of that. They appropriated $1.2 million, for the transit project, or for the transit enterprise project from the enterprise fund to go into the voluntary heating exchange, so that now there's 1.25 whatever million dollars in there, so that we can have more people get off of gas just in time for them to not have enough gas to put in those things. That anyway, they're still working on the South Cushman rifle range, so they reappropriate money that they had. They actually came in apparently a little bit under budget on the first part that they did. So, and the money went back in, so they took it back out again, almost $600,000 to finish the safety improvements, and they're gonna get some more good stuff in there, they said. So it should be up and it should be something they can do after people get finished sighting in their rifles for going to hunting this fall. Then the one that we really are interested in was the ordinance on rezoning the track in Brookside Park, which I know Mrs. Clack didn't get to hear because it got to be too late for that. So they did rezone it from the multi-family residential that it is right now to a outdoor recreation, and then they had that waterway near water overlay thing to protect the water in the slough. So there's, something about you can't build but so close to it, or if we want to build like a shelter or something like that, or anything like that, it has to have a 50 feet to the water line, something like that. So that all passed. And finally, the part of that the borough did was they also had two pieces of property that's sitting almost behind the Wolf Run, somewhere in that area. And they're sitting right next to each other, and there was multifamily, and it didn't make any sense to do that. So they put it back into like a recreational one. It's actually where there's a bridge that goes from the neighborhood over into the ice park area, like that. It's a footbridge. And so that there was part that the borough owned for the footbridge for a road type thing. And then there was a property on around that area. And so somebody wants to put in a coffee stand, and they're just going to use the other part for snow, as like a snow dump or something like that. So that seemed like it was very. Fairbanks gave us a report. They said they have no patrol officers for a certain time in the daytime. I didn't get the hours, but like somewhere around the lunch hour, whatever, they won't have anybody patrolling. But he said that was not meant that they didn't have staff in to respond to any kind of emergencies. It would just mean that sergeant might have to go out and do his job. They're still used, they would send the sergeant out to respond to somebody laying in the road or whatever. He said something funny like that. They finally got a contract, some kind of police bonus that they're giving up to $60,000 apparently for lateral moves over a 5-year period. If you have been there for 13 years, you get some kind of special insurance policy, and there should be increase in pay for that also. Mayor Ward said that now they don't have any more lands to sell right now until they bring up some more. All of the closure properties that are coming up will be for sale in September. See their website. The roads plans for the whole borough is online, and they really need your input. So if you have anything to say about the new roads that are kind of other projects, please go to the borough website and weigh in on this. It's really important that they hear from you. Other than that, the train is back on track at Pioneer Park. That's the most important part. Everybody liked that. So school district, there are no meetings in July. And if you have children, please go to their website for the school district, because there are all kind of fun activities that they are sponsoring, daytime things and online things and stuff. So go to their website and be able to see that. And that would be it.
May I ask a question? Was there any mention at all, because there was a couple of days later from Mayor Ward at the Civ Mill meeting, about sunsetting the amount of money that people can get for tax abatement for the zone that we're in, the military facilities?
That was not mentioned,
Was not mentioned.
that I heard of. No.
It is because we actually have someone building a fiveplex here. And he said he put in everything, and he tried to do everything he thought that he could. And you cannot move forward with it. You have to stay at a dead spot in your development, or you'll forfeit your chance of it. So he's had everything, according to him, lined up since April. And yet they're telling him the earliest that they're gonna tell him whether he's going to get a property tax abatement is August, September. So why would he sit there through this time of year with it beautiful as it is waiting on somebody, so you have to know that I intend to go down to the borough to find out for that constituent of ours who's
It-
trying to build.
They did have one, that went through, for housing, like I said, in the Dawson subdivision off of Sandwich Street. So it's not like they're not paying attention to it, they're just not moving
I
them
mean, I know in
forward.
May, there's a lot of nothing but the finance, the budget and all that, but and the guy was apparently approved or had done everything that he could do in April, and now they're telling him, well, we won't get to you till August or September. You know, just shuts him down. Okay. Thank you for that. Any questions for the borough rep? Thank you for your full report. Appreciate it. We have no ongoing projects report, no item 11 unfinished business. That takes us to new business. We know that items A and C were consented, so we have item B, the travel and host reimbursement. Madam Clerk, you want to take us through that? Ordinance 2309. Bring it up on the screen for us, please.
Sorry, I'm having technical difficulties tonight. Okay, so this is the mileage form that Ms. Glab and I worked on. The purpose is basically just to make sure everybody's on the same page, turning in the same information. We have made it a quarterly form, so you can have up to the 90 days, no more than the 90 days. You can have less, absolutely. And we made sure that we put on here, it was due no later than 10 days into the next quarter. I can change that to working days, absolutely.
Where's the front of that ordinance, the header about this? Up at the top, wherever the ordinance is listed. There we go. So it's introduced July 10th. Anyone in the public, any citizens comments on this form? Any citizens? No one online? So citizens' comments are closed. Someone want to go ahead and introduce this, please? Ordinance 2309.
Move to, I don't see the number, sorry.
2309.
Move to introduce 2309, an ordinance of the city of North Pole, amending the Title II Personnel System, Travel, and the Host of Reimbursement.
Second.
Okay, so we have it motion to be introduced and seconded. Discussion. Yes, this is Clark.
And I'd still go back with stating that it would be, I think, in the best interest of the employees, including yourself, that it would be done on a monthly basis. For safety and backing up the documentation when we get ready to go through audit. My past experience in any place of employment, being state, has usually been, it's a monthly document for the people in the accounting firm to be able to follow it through. You're taking an awful big chance, in my viewpoint, an observation, that doing a quarterly, and then looking at if everybody's books have to be done by the end of December, making a guess estimate, and you're falling short, and most people really want all their money at the end of December to make sure that it's done in a timely manner. So with that, I think that would be my concern with us doing quarterly.
I understand that, why you make that concern. I will say this, that if the mileage rate stays the same, because it could change, it go up and go down, it's on the whims of the federal government, but if it stays 65.5 cents, then on a quarterly basis, it's less than $300 a quarter. At my rate, you know, at 65.5 cents. And there will be quarters where it'll be considerably less than that. The ones that I'll mention is first quarter, January, February, historically, having been the mayor now 5 years, almost 5 years, I don't travel hardly at all in January, February. The other 2 months would be the end of October through the first week in December. That's only, December's only changed because AML changed the Conference of Mayors and AML to the second week of December now. And I think they changed it back now to maybe the first week in December. I think there's been a change, if I'm not mistaken. So, but I very rarely travel all that time. So at most, you're talking about $300. I'm just rounding it up. Miss Welch.
I think.
You
Oh,
can
Mr. Keller was first. Well, okay, I can't see that that should be a problem because this is just something you are allowed to do. It is not that you shall keep it till like that. And I guess you can do that if you are not organized enough that you lose your mileage, then that's a benefit to the city. I like it because I know Trish and her crew has many tasks that they have to do all the time. So if they only have to do it once every quarter, that's 4 times like that. But like I said earlier, or that we talked about earlier, was that it's still available. If you need to have your money now, you can certainly turn it in and it will be done at an earlier time. But this gives you a chance to just kind of not mess with it. That's my thought of it. I thought it was a great idea.
Yes.
If I could offer my support to Mrs. Clack's position for monthly. Not all mayors might have all their stuff together like you, Mayor. And a little bit of guidance because it's just not us here, but it's also what we're trying to set up for future down the year. And if we could have a pattern of making sure we have everything in by the 10th of the next month, whether it's 10th business day, just have that on the calendars of you got to have it in or else you lose it. And it's better to lose 1 month than 3 months of reimbursement for travel. So that's my thought, is just to set the precedence of from here on out, so we don't have to have amendments to ordinances and just keep the pattern going.
Anyone else? Madam Clerk, would you call the question?
Okay,
And
Mr. Jacobson?
Restate what we're voting on too, if you have to. If you find it necessary. Does anyone find it necessary?
Did we need?
She said she says she'll change it to business days.
Okay, and then to monthly, do we need to vote on the monthly too or
We
something?
need
No.
To make an amendment to do
Yeah.
that.
Have to make an
Make an
amendment.
amendment to do that, and then we have to vote if it's to be amended.
All right, so I
One
move to amend from quarterly to monthly. And then to add in the 10 business days as well.
Second.
So on the amendment, Madam Clerk, would you call the question?
Okay, so on the amendment of 2392 to change to 10 business days and to make it monthly form. Okay, Mr. Jacobson,
Yes.
Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Mrs. Clack,
Yes.
Mr. Skips,
Yes.
Mrs. Welch,
No.
Mr. Cromer,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor.
No. Does anyone wish to change their vote? So the amendment now to vote on the amended motion, call the question.
Okay, Mrs. Welch,
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson,
Yes.
Mr. Cromer,
Yes.
Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Mrs. Clack,
Yes.
Mr. Skips,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes. Does anyone wish to change their vote? See no change. This will now be advanced to the next meeting on July the 24th. Thank you. So that takes us to council comments, item 13. Who goes first?
Mrs. Welch.
Too, I thought. Okay, so just on a personal note, I have enjoyed the outside, so whoever it was that has been praying for good weather, I thank you very much. Because it has been wonderful gardening weather and things are starting to come together. And just want to announce that we had 8 baby bunnies on Saturday, Friday, we finally had baby bunnies. So I've been playing the concerned mama out there and checking out on the bunnies. But other than that, really just appreciate everybody just paying attention that they're out there on the road. I say that every time, but the fact that we had a rollover here on the highway just shows that we really need to pay attention. Lucky we didn't lose anybody, so just praying that everybody will take not only their own safety in mind, but also think about everybody else. We have lots of children out there right now. They're on the street, they're on their bikes, they come out quickly from the sidewalk and crossing like that. So just think about it. How long is it going to take you to fill out a report or go to jail for running over somebody with you because you went faster than you were supposed to do and were involved with an accident that involved somebody? I know that most of us going 10 to 15 miles over the speed limit while we're in this city will maybe get you home a minute and a half faster, and it's not worth it. So please be safe out there.
Thank you, Mr. Skips.
Yes, I just want to reemphasize again about the training through HR. Make sure everybody gets that done. And actually, the new website is the first time I've gone through it, and it's really user friendly. That's all. Thank
It
you.
is. Thank you. Mrs. Clock?
I have to agree. The website is excellent. I've had a good time going through that. I'm hoping all of us as committee members have had a chance to add their personal information on there. If you haven't, to help the young lady, our chairperson, to get our information out if you wish to add to it. And it would be great to see all of us as leaders get the training done, because we do set precedent to our employees and the people out here in North Pole.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Keller.
I am excited for the summer that we've had. It's been a little rainy, but it's not been smoky. I can look down the road from my business and still see the trees a quarter mile away. My lungs like it too. So with that beautiful weather, just be safe on water, on land, in the air. We need to enjoy the Alaska summer while it's here and enjoy the Alaska region that we live in. But yeah, just keep having safe fun.
Thank you, Mr. Kramer.
I also like the website, and I did turn in my little snippet about myself.
I know.
Yeah. I want to remind everybody or let everybody know that the candidate filing will be starting July 17th and ends July 31st, because it'll be like 2 of us leaving. So I want to make sure there's people that are applying for be a candidate out here. So, and that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Jacobson.
Thank you. First of all, my allergies are just raging, and so I apologize for nodding off multiple times during this meeting because I can barely stay awake taking the medication to allow me to talk, but it is brutal out there this summer. I handed out an article that was off a website about things happening all around the state, and this is about a grant that a person in Kenai area got to turn plastic into lumber, like 2x4s or 2x6s. And it just basically grinds them up and makes it into pellet. They heat the pellets up, and then they have this form in which they pour the liquid into. It hardens up, and you can use it just like the plastic decking. It's a lovely green color because that's the color of the caps over the oil wells on the north slope, and they provide 75% of the material for the plastic, and the rest comes from the community recycling their plastics, the different kinds of plastics for that. And they're going to be doing a little bit of a road tour and be in Anchorage and Palmer, but I don't think they're going to make it up here. But I just wanted us to think about this, because we do have a person living in the North Pole community, not within city limits, who has wanted to take glass and recycle it and crush it into sand for building materials. And I think with his enthusiasm and possibility of grants out there, once we get a grant writer to be looking at getting a grant that we could develop a co-op or a partnership to start up a glass crushing, sand making facility here in North Pole. So just wanted you to think about that. I also sit on the fast planning and project enhancement committee, and they started talking about putting some decorations on bridges throughout the area, in particular the Wendell Street Bridge, Cushman Street, Barnett Street, and the underpasses where some of those bridges have walkways. And they're going to go through a public process to hire an artist, and they wanted to have a very simple design on the underneath the bridges that you could just put up a stencil and paint through. And I said, well, out here in North Pole, we're thinking about something bigger than just a repeat of snowflakes or Christmas ornaments. We wanted to kind of recognize 75 years of history. So, Mayor, as you are sitting on the policy committee,
Policy board, yeah.
we're let them know that as a council, we'd like to be involved in that, dictating what kind of mural we want in our bridge under Santa Claus Lane, over Santa Claus Lane.
Yes.
And I wish everybody a happy golden days. There's a lot of activities almost every day of the week except for Friday. And that's when they have the parade and the rubber ducky race. So it's great to be here in North Pole, Alaska. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, well, so I mentioned earlier in my comments, the city of Nenana is having this big triple celebration this upcoming weekend, July 15th. And it starts at 9 o'clock, where they're going to open up a time capsule. I don't know what all they're going to put in that time capsule down by the railroad station. But by 10 o'clock, they're going to commemorate the first flight that Ben Eielson made from Fairbanks to Nenana. So that's pretty significant that they're going to do that. And there's a whole matter of things that they're doing. There's a monument at the bridge there that represents the Polish engineers who helped build that bridge 100 years ago. So that's going to be at 10:30. All this is pretty tight in here. Lunch is going to be from 1 o'clock to noon. And then they're going to do the ribbon cutting to the bridge. And the railroad centennial, this is all paid for by the Alaska Railroad Corporation for the railroad part, has its big ceremony at 1:15. And the governor comes, the federal delegation come. And then the whole thing is going to end with the golden spike at 2:20. But there is an effort that Mayor Josh Verhagen asked me to help him with to get one of our tankers to fly down there out of the 168, because most of the wing has been moved down to Elmendorf. And so the tankers, we still have 5 of them here at Fairbanks International while the entire runway is being repaired. So I'm supposed to know by tomorrow, but I was supposed to have known by today. I was supposed to have known by Friday. I don't know how they're going to figure out if they're going to send a tanker down there, but I hope they do. Because the question begs, if Ben hadn't made that flight back then, will we even have an Eielson Air Force Base today? So, and I imagine about a lot of those things. Eielson means a lot to me. On the 6th of July, I passed my 50th anniversary of active duty in the Air Force, and my first assignment was King Salmon. So Eielson sat very much prominent on what we call the large screen vertical display. So I used to get to look at the combat alert cells and watch Alaska Patrol. We called them Alpha Papa, scrambling out of Eielson or scrambling out of Galena or King Salmon. Very rarely did they scramble from Elmendorf. because that was Alaska NORAD Region Control Center. So I have 50 years anniversary of that coming up. And then the next day, on the 7th of July, we celebrated, my wife and I, 24 years that I signed in to the East Ramp at the FAA when they brought me up here. So I've got 24 years. I guess I'm still learning about this community here in those 24 short years. And with that, there's so much, but you're welcome to go down to and take part in any of the things you do down in the Nana this weekend. And of course, I had to explain to the young mayor that if he had wanted F-35s or F-16s, he really needed to go through the Secretary of the Air Force through Public Affairs a half a year ago to get it, because they do a return on investment idea. Is it worth our while? What are we going to get from it? And then they bid it out. So they could have Elmendorf take it if they wanted to do the flyby. So they say, well, it's too late. Sorry, but you can't come 3 weeks before the event and ask for it. But I'm hoping the Air Guard can make that exception because they're not active Air Force. They'll actually fly a strato tanker down there. But they will have flying out at the airport starting at 7 o'clock in the morning. And the airport is south of town, just a little bit, so along the park. So if you want to go down the Experimental Aircraft Association, Civil Air Patrol, all those groups will be there from 7 o'clock in the morning to 5 in the evening with a fly-in anyhow. So it should be a pretty good day. And it's kind of nice to get out of town once in a while. So with that, I'll say, does anybody wish to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, so we're adjourned at 47, Madam Clerk, according to that clock, and thank y'all for coming tonight and sitting through this.
Right.
Um,
Did anyone go to the parade? How was that?
I did.
I miss that.
You did?